It was a cold, gray morning when Michael Carter visited his son's grave. The cemetery was quiet, except for the rustling of leaves from the old oak tree that stood tall near the burial site. His son, Ethan, had passed away 2 years ago in a tragic accident, and since then Michael's life had been a hollow shell of what it once was. He came here every week, rain or shine, to talk to Ethan, to apologize, and to grieve. But this morning was different. As Michael approached the grave, he noticed a small figure sitting cross-legged in front of the headstone. It was a young girl, no older than 10, with messy brown hair and a tattered blue jacket. She was clutching a stuffed rabbit and staring at the grave with an intensity that made Michael pause. "Who are you?" Michael asked, his voice cracking slightly. The girl turned to look at him, her eyes wide and filled with tears. She didn't answer. Instead, she pointed at the headstone and whispered, "Ethan was my friend." Michael's heart skipped a beat. His son had never mentioned a friend like this. He knelt beside the girl, his knees sinking into the damp grass. "What do you mean? How did you know Ethan?" The girl hesitated, then said, "He used to visit me. In my dreams." Michael felt a chill run down his spine. He didn't know what to say. Was this some kind of cruel joke? Or was this girl telling the truth? Before he could ask more questions, the girl stood up, brushed the dirt off her jacket, and said, "I have to go now, but I'll come back tomorrow." And with that she ran off, disappearing into the misty morning. Michael sat there staring at the spot where she had been. His mind was racing. Who was this girl, and what did she mean by dreams? He knew one thing for sure. He had to find out more. Michael couldn't stop thinking about the girl. Her words echoed in his mind. "Ethan was my friend. He used to visit me in my dreams." It didn't make sense. Ethan had been gone for 2 years, and this girl couldn't have been more than 10 years old. How could she have known him? And why had she been sitting at his grave? The next day, Michael returned to the cemetery, hoping to find her again. He brought a small bouquet of flowers, Ethan's favorite, daisies, and placed them gently on the grave. As he stood there, he scanned the area, but the girl was nowhere to be seen. Just as he was about to leave, he heard a soft voice behind him. "You came back." Michael turned and saw her standing a few feet away, clutching the same stuffed rabbit. This time she looked less hesitant, as if she had been waiting for him. "Of course I came back," Michael said, trying to keep his voice steady. "I need to know more about you. What's your name?" "Lily," she said softly. "My name is Lily." "Lily," Michael repeated. "How did you know Ethan?" Lily hesitated, then sat down on the grass near the grave. Michael joined her, sitting cross-legged like she had the day before. For a moment they sat in silence, the only sound the rustling of the oak tree above them. Finally, Lily spoke. "I used to see him in my dreams. He would talk to me, tell me stories, and make me laugh. He said he missed you." Michael's breath caught in his throat. He talked about me?" Lily nodded. "He said you were sad. He wanted me to tell you that he's okay now. He's not in pain anymore." Tears welled up in Michael's eyes. He had spent the last 2 years blaming himself for Ethan's death, wondering if his son had suffered, if he had been scared. Hearing Lily's words felt like a weight lifting off his chest. "But how?" Michael began, but Lily interrupted him. "I don't know how it works," she said. "I just know he was real, and he wanted me to find you." Michael didn't know what to believe. Part of him thought this might be some kind of miracle, a way for Ethan to reach out to him. Another part of him wondered if Lily was just a lonely child with a vivid imagination. But there was something about her, something sincere, that made him want to trust her. "Will you come back tomorrow?" Michael asked. Lily nodded. "I'll be here." As she walked away, Michael felt a strange sense of hope. For the first time in years, he didn't feel completely alone. Over the next few days, Michael and Lily developed a routine. Every morning they would meet at Ethan's grave. Michael would bring flowers and Lily would bring her stuffed rabbit. They would sit together under the old oak tree, talking about Ethan, about life, and about their own struggles. Michael learned that Lily lived in a foster home on the outskirts of town. She had been in the system for most of her life, moving from one family to another. She didn't talk much about her past, but Michael could tell she had been through a lot. Her eyes carried a sadness that no child should ever know. One morning, as they sat together, Michael decided to open up to her. "After Ethan died," he said, "I felt like I had nothing left. I stopped talking to my friends, my family. I even quit my job. I just couldn't face the world without him." Lily listened quietly, her small hands clutching the stuffed rabbit. "Do you think he's still with you?" she asked. Michael thought for a moment. "I don't know. I want to believe he is, but it's hard." Lily looked at him with those wide, earnest eyes. "He is. I know he is. He told me he's always watching over you." Michael felt a lump in his throat. He wanted to believe her more than anything. "Thank you, Lily," he said softly, "for being here, for telling me these things." Lily smiled for the first time since they had met. It was a small, shy smile, but it lit up her face. "You're the only person who listens to me," she said. "Everyone else thinks I'm just a kid with crazy stories." Michael reached out and gently patted her shoulder. "You're not crazy, Lily. You're special." As the days went by, Michael found himself looking forward to their meetings. Lily's presence brought a sense of comfort he hadn't felt in years. She reminded him of Ethan in some ways. Her curiosity, her kindness, her ability to see the good in people. Slowly, Michael began to feel like he was coming back to life. But there was still so much he didn't understand. Who was Lily, really? And why had she appeared in his life now? He knew he needed to find out more, but he didn't want to scare her away. For now, he was content to let their friendship grow, one day at a time. One morning, Michael arrived at the cemetery to find Lily sitting alone under the oak tree, her face pale and her hands trembling. She looked up at him with tears in her eyes. "What's wrong, Lily?" Michael asked, rushing to her side. I had a dream last night," she whispered. "About Ethan." Michael's heart raced. "What did he say?" Lily hesitated, as if she was afraid to tell him. He said it's time for me to tell you the truth." "The truth?" Michael repeated, confused. "What truth?" Lily took a deep breath. "I didn't just know Ethan from my dreams. I saw him. In real life. Before he died." Michael froze. "What do you mean?" Lily looked down at her hands, twisting the fabric of her jacket. "I was there that day, the day of the accident. I was playing near the park and I saw him. He was riding his bike and he waved at me. He smiled. And then—" Her voice broke and she started to cry. Michael's mind was spinning. He had never heard this part of the story before. The police had told him Ethan was alone when the accident happened. "Lily, are you saying you were there when it happened?" Lily nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I saw the car. It was going too fast. I tried to yell to warn him, but it was too late. I couldn't do anything. I just stood there." Michael felt a wave of emotions. Shock, sadness, and something else he couldn't quite name. He reached out and pulled Lily into a hug, holding her tightly as she cried. "It's okay, Lily," he said softly. "It's not your fault. You were just a kid." "But I should have done something," Lily sobbed. "I should have helped him." Michael shook his head. "There was nothing you could have done. It was an accident. A terrible, tragic accident." For a long time they sat there together, holding on to each other as the weight of the truth settled over them. Michael felt a strange sense of relief, as if a missing piece of the puzzle had finally been found. He had spent so long wondering what had happened that day, and now, thanks to Lily, he had some answers. But there was still one question lingering in his mind. "Lily," he said gently, "why didn't you tell anyone? Why didn't you come forward?" Lily wiped her tears with the sleeve of her jacket. "I was scared. I didn't know what to do, and then I started having dreams about Ethan. He told me it wasn't my fault, and he asked me to find you. He said you needed me." Michael felt a lump in his throat. He didn't know what to say. All he knew was that Lily had been carrying this burden for years, just like he had. and now somehow they had found each other. After Lily's confession, Michael felt a shift in their relationship. The bond between them grew stronger, as if they had both been carrying pieces of the same broken puzzle and were now putting them back together. Michael started to see Lily not just as a mysterious girl connected to his son, but as someone who needed him just as much as he needed her. One morning, as they sat together under the oak tree, Michael made a decision. "Lily," he said, "I want to help you. I want to give you a home." Lily looked up at him, her eyes wide with surprise. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Michael said carefully, "I want to be there for you, like a father, if you'll let me." Lily's lower lip trembled, and for a moment she didn't say anything. Then in a small voice she asked, "Do you really mean it?" Michael nodded. "I do. You've brought so much light back into my life, Lily. I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose you." Tears filled Lily's eyes, but this time they were tears of joy. She threw her arms around Michael, hugging him tightly. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you." Michael hugged her back, feeling a warmth in his chest that he hadn't felt in years. For the first time since Ethan's death, he felt like he had a purpose again. He knew it wouldn't be easy. Adopting Lily would mean navigating the foster system, dealing with paperwork, and facing his own fears about being a parent again. But he was ready. He had to be. Over the next few weeks, Michael began the process of becoming Lily's legal guardian. He reached out to her social worker, filled out forms, and even started preparing his home for her arrival. He painted the spare room a soft yellow, bought books and toys, and made sure there was always a plate of cookies on the kitchen counter. He wanted Lily to feel welcome, to feel like she belonged. Lily, for her part, seemed both excited and nervous. She had never had a permanent home before, and the idea of staying in one place was both thrilling and terrifying. But every time she visited Michael's house, she seemed to relax a little more. She would curl up on the couch with a book, or help Michael cook dinner, or simply sit and talk with him about her day. It was as if they had always been meant to find each other. One evening, as they sat together on the porch watching the sunset, Lily turned to Michael and said, "Do you think Ethan would be happy? About us, I mean." Michael smiled. "I think he would be very happy. I think he brought us together for a reason." Lily nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. "I think so too." As Michael and Lily grew closer, they both knew there was one more thing they needed to do: visit the place where Ethan's accident had happened. It was a difficult decision, but they both felt it was necessary. They needed to face the past in order to fully move forward. One Saturday morning they drove to the park where the accident had occurred. It was a quiet, peaceful place now, with children playing on the swings and families having picnics. But for Michael and Lily, it was a place filled with painful memories. They walked to the spot where Ethan had been riding his bike that day. Michael's hands trembled as he stood there, staring at the ground. Lily reached out and took his hand, squeezing it tightly. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. Michael took a deep breath. "I think so. It's just hard being here." Lily nodded. "I know, but we're here together. That makes it a little easier, right?" Michael looked down at her and smiled. "Yes, it does." They stood there for a while, silent except for the sound of the wind rustling through the trees. Then Michael knelt down and placed a small bouquet of daisies on the ground. "I miss you, Ethan," he whispered. "But I want you to know that I'm going to be okay. We're going to be okay." Lily knelt beside him and placed her stuffed rabbit next to the flowers. "Thank you for bringing us together," she said quietly. "I'll take care of him, I promise." As they stood up and walked away, Michael felt a sense of closure he hadn't felt in years. He knew he would always miss Ethan, but he also knew that his son would want him to be happy. And for the first time in a long time, Michael felt like he could be. Months passed and Michael and Lily settled into their new life together. The adoption process was finalized and Lily officially became part of Michael's family. It wasn't always easy. There were moments of doubt, fear, and sadness, but they faced them together, leaning on each other for strength. One evening, as they sat together in the living room, Michael turned to Lily and said, "You know, I think Ethan would be really proud of us." Lily looked up from her book and smiled. "I think so too. He brought us together for a reason, didn't he?" Michael nodded. He did, and I'm so grateful for that. Lily set her book aside and moved closer to Michael, resting her head on his shoulder. Do you think we'll ever stop missing him? Michael thought for a moment. I don't think so, but that's okay. Missing him just means we loved him, and that love will always be a part of us. Lily nodded, her eyes filling with tears. I'm glad I found you, Michael. You're the best dad I could ever ask for. Michael wrapped his arm around her, pulling her into a hug. And you're the best daughter I could ever ask for, Lily. I'm so lucky to have you. As they sat there, holding on to each other, Michael realized that life had given him a second chance. He had lost Ethan, but he had found Lily. And through her, he had found hope, love, and the strength to keep going. The story of Michael and Lily wasn't just about loss, it was about redemption, healing, and the power of human connection. It was a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there is always a glimmer of light, waiting to guide us home. And so their new chapter began, filled with love, laughter, and the promise of a brighter future. Together they had found a way to turn their pain into something beautiful, a family built on love, trust, and the unbreakable bond they shared.
Subscribe and press the bell icon so that you never miss the amazing video.